You out there guys, this is Dale of Lone Wombat Airsoft, and today we're going to be kicking off a series of first impression airsoft site reviews, and that's with Trojan Airsoft in Macclesfield. Now before we get into it, I want to make clear that I've never been to the site before I did this review, so everything I'm going to talk about reflects my experiences on the day and that day only. It's entirely possible that I turned up on a bad day, it's entirely possible that I turned up on a really good day. All I can say is that these are my experiences from when I turned up, so try and keep that in mind as we go through the video review. And as always, if there's a specific part you'd like to skip to, like the gameplay, the terrain, the staff, I'm going to put some links up on either side of me, so you can click on those and it's going to skip straight to the part in the video that you want to see first. Okay, so let's dive into it. Now the site I visited was Trojan's Woodland Airsoft site in Macclesfield. Now that's not to be confused with the Stockport CQB site that they also run. We'll be taking a look at that at a separate date. Now, whether you're arriving by road or rail, the site's very accessible. It's located halfway between the Chelford railway station and the point where the A357 and the A34 cross. So very easy to get to the site if you're coming from either of those directions. I personally had no trouble getting there myself. If you're using a sat-nav or Google Maps, I've put the site address in the description below. So type that into the sat-nav or Google Maps and it'll take you straight there. But there are two things you need to bear in mind when you get into this site. Firstly, the address itself isn't going to lead you to the site entrance, it's going to lead you to a large house on the same road. I'm going to throw up a satellite image here of the site and the house itself, and I'll mark in red where the actual site entrance is, and in yellow where your sat-nav's going to lead you to, so just keep that in mind as you're driving up. Secondly, the site entrance itself is very easy to miss. You're looking for a sign that says Stubby Lane. The hedgerow next to it has the Trojan Airsoft banner on the side of it. So keep an eye out for these two as you're driving down the roads, and then you can't go wrong. You just turn into that dirt road and you park roughly halfway down where the gate is. You need to park on Stubby Lane itself. There is no parking in the actual site. It's just a quick walk across the fields. You'll find a gate with the site entrance in, wander into there and you'll be straight into the safe zone. In terms of on-site facilities, Trojan's decked out with pretty much everything you'd ever need. There's a free cooked breakfast and lunch on site with part of the walk-on fee. There's bathrooms on site, a shop which sells ammo, gas, grenades, food. There's even on-site charging facilities, so if you run out of battery halfway through the day, you can just wander back to the safe zone and it'll charge your battery for you, so that's not the day wasted, you can still go back out there. In terms of prices, it's £20 for the walk-on fee if you've got your own gear and a member, £25 if you're not a member. If you wanted to hire some gear, 40 quid will get you a G36C, 3,000 rounds of .2s, a smoke grenade and a bang grenade. And if you want to go for the sniper option, £55 will give you a VSR style sniper rifle, 100 rounds of .3s, a speed loader and a full ghillie suit. Personally, the free cooked breakfast was quite a nice surprise for me. They hadn't actually listed on the website what lunch would be, so I brought a packed lunch with me, but was very surprised when I turned up and everything was there for me. I wasn't wanting for anything throughout the entire day. So let's talk a bit about the staff at Trojan Airsoft. Now the first thing I want to get off the bat is the staff were extremely friendly, approachable and were just good to have a conversation with. Ben Franklin, the site's owner, he was very enthusiastic about the games of the day and just trying to make sure that everyone had a good time, and he had some visions for the future of his site. And looking at the amount of homemade fortifications that have sprung up in just the 1 year that it's been open, I think his visions for adding to the site in the future are very real. About the marshals themselves during game, there was always at least one within sight at all times, more often than not two, just keeping an eye on players and making sure that everything's going smoothly. There was one rules related issue during the day, and that's when one player called out the position of another after he'd been killed, and that kind of soured the mood a little bit, but credit to where it's due with the marshals, they deal with it very well. One suggestion I would like to make to the marshals is during one particular game our team had brought an objective pretty much back to our regen point and we're just sitting on the regen. So what this meant is the other team couldn't attack it. They launched a load of guys at it, but our guys just kept regenning over and over and won out by sheer dumb attrition. Now what I would have liked to have seen is the marshals tell the enemy team that that's our regen point and shouldn't be assaulted, but more importantly kick our guys off the regen point. There was no way the enemy team was going to win that, and so just move them on a little bit. It's only one suggestion, and at the entire day of multiple games, it's the only thing I clicked onto. As far as I'm concerned, the marshals did a good job. I just had to see them be a bit more active in shaping the game while it's progressing. In terms of the players themselves, I was extremely impressed by the sportsmanship on site, especially in the first couple of games. Every single person took their hits. There was There was only one instance where I got slightly annoyed at the end of the day, but for the most part it was just unbelievably good. Even in really long games where people kept coming back from regen points over and over again, you'd expect them to get frustrated and maybe not take the hit or two, but they just did over and over again, and I have to give them credit for that. They were really good sportsmen on the day. So let's talk a little bit about the terrain at Trojan Airsoft. Now, when I first turned up and looked at the site, I thought it was a little bit on the small side, and indeed to date it is the smallest site I've ever played at. But once you get in those trees, it feels actually larger than it is. Now, this is mainly due to the type of forestry available, but also the liberal spread of fortifications throughout the site. Now, the diversity of these fortifications, bunkers and bridges over rivers, it just makes the site feel like you haven't seen all of it, and indeed I didn't feel like I'd seen every little unique nook and cranny of the site, even though it's on the small side. The site has some very long sight lines due to the nature of the forestry. Now, what I mean by that is the trees are very thick but very loosely spread, so you can see for absolutely miles down the site, but the cover is very thick. So if you have a long range gun with a scope, you can absolutely dominate this site because there's absolutely nothing getting in the way of your shot, like spare twigs or leaves or anything like that. Now, usually what would happen on a site like that is it would devolve into a sniper fest. You'd get people hanging back at long range and nobody would ever get anything done because you'd just get picked off from miles away. But this isn't the case at Trojan, and that's mainly because the forest floor itself is very clear of debris and spare logs and that sort of thing. So you can charge up and down the site extremely quickly, going cover to cover. And because the cover is very thick trees, it's always solid. If you put yourself behind a tree, you're not going to get hit by an enemy at long range, so you can really close that gap if you need to. So that just gives you options, and that's something you really want when you're trying to take down a target. Either you can blast at them at long range, or you can go cover to cover, you can flank around the side and try and negate what they're hiding behind, or you could even use their own cover to just block their view of you and charge straight for them, and they won't even know you're there until you're bearing right down on top of them. It just makes the game so interesting. It allows people to get things done even though you can shoot at long ranges. In terms of other bit of terrains, the site has a lot of water available on the site. Now, I don't mean like puddles or boggy ground or anything rubbish like that. I'm on about like ponds and lakes and rivers and that sort of things. It adds a whole other dimension to the combat there. You can be hiding behind a bunker on one side of a lake, just blazing away the other. It's impassable terrain. You can't go across it, but you can see and shoot across it. And that just makes the whole thing interesting. You don't see that often at many airsoft sites. There's one particular point in the map where you've got a bridge over a pond and a fortification on the other side, and you have to assault this bridge so you can get to the bunker on the other, and it just adds for really interesting gameplay. So overall, even though the site is small, I was extremely impressed by the terrain it has on offer. It didn't feel the size it actually was, and I never found myself wishing that the site were larger. Now, the game modes were another highlight of my day at Trojan Airsoft because they were very diverse, but they're also very short, fast and brutal. They're extremely fun to play. Every single game was a regen game with a 2-minute bleed out, so there was never a point where I felt like nothing was going on or I was a bit bored, because you didn't have to wait too long before regen and jumping straight back into it. Now, the first game of the day was a bomb hunt. Both teams started at either end of the site. We had to find this large cylinder that they'd hidden somewhere within the map. But what I liked is that they didn't hide it in the most obvious spot right in the middle of the map. They actually took the effort to hide the thing. It came to the stage where we'd overtaken most of the map and were holding the enemy team back, but we couldn't find this bomb. We were looking all over the site for it, and we were worried about the other team regrouping and taking us out. And it just added a bit more to the game type by the fact that they actually took the effort to hide the thing instead of putting it in the most obvious spot. Another game type we did was a rolling assault, whereby defenders would base themselves at unique bases throughout the site, and the attackers would assault each one in turn. Every time a defender would die, they would fall back to the next base. So what this did, it really fleshed out the unique defensible points in the site, so you got to see a lot more of it and really got to know the nooks and crannies of it a little bit better, while it just focused on this one particular area of the site. We also did a brief infection game. The only reason we did this is because the marshals needed a bit more time for the big game of the day, and so instead of forcing everyone to just sit around in the safe zone and wait for them, they just sent us out for a quick, fun and fast game, which I thought was an incredibly good decision. It just kept everyone interested in the day. Now, the main game type of the day was fought over a pair of exploding pineapples. Yeah, what they'd done is they got 2 pineapples, hollowed out the inside, put a small explosive charge in it, and we were fighting over who had rights to blow them up, which was pretty awesome, there's no denying that. So overall, I was extremely happy with the game types they had on offer at Trojan. They're very diverse and they're very creative as well. And speaking to some of the players, they do actually listen to player suggestions for game types. So if you have one that you think would be quite cool for the day, just speak to the marshals, and if they think it's good as well, they might just put it into the day and see if it turns out alright. So creativity, variety, and they were certainly very interesting, but most of all the game types were short, they were fast, and they were very intense, and so that's the really thing you need to take away from Trojan Airsoft. So is the Trojan Airsoft Woodland site worth a visit? Well, if you're based in the Manchester, Leek or even the Stoke areas, I'd say that it almost certainly is. You just need to be aware of what the site is all about before you turn up. If you come expecting long, drawn-out game modes over a massive playing field, then perhaps this site isn't for you. This site is all about short, intense firefights. I'd hesitate to call it CQB though, just because you can engage the enemy at whatever range you like, thanks to the type of terrain that's on offer. You've got interesting game modes, unique terrain pieces, a lot of fortifications, decent staff, all the on-site facilities you could ever ask for. So if you're an airsofter that likes close and interesting game types, then this site is almost certainly for you. So I hope you've enjoyed my video review of the Trojan Woodland Airsoft site. Full site details are available in the description down below. So that's got the website, the Facebook group, the address for the site, everything you need really. If you've got any questions or feedback you'd like to give, then feel free to leave a comment down below. But also, if you're interested in finding out about new airsoft sites, subscribe to the channel, because every time I'm going to go airsofting, I'm going to do one of these reviews of a brand new site. So you get to see what a new site's like, you get a feel of what it is, and you also get my opinion about what the site's like. So again, I hope you've enjoyed this video review, and until next time, this has been Dale at Lone Wombat Airsoft.